I was drowning in paperwork hunched over my desk in a cubicle that smelled like stale coffee and regret. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, relentless, drilling into my skull. Numbers swam on the page budgets. Deadlines, crap that didn't matter. The phone rang, sharp and insistent, slicing through the office drone. Unknown number. I ignored it. Telemarketers could kiss my ass. The door banged open. Jake stumbled in, his face white as the papers spilling off my desk. "Boyd, it's the cops. Leah's been in an accident." His voice cracked, high and wild. My gut twisted. "Leah?" I snatched the receiver, hands slick with sudden sweat. "Yeah?" I croaked. "Mr. Boyd, Officer Daniels. Your wife's been in a car crash. St. Mary's Hospital. Get here fast." The line went dead. I didn't think, just bolted. Jake shouted something about covering my shift, but it was noise, lost in the thump of my pulse. Keys jangled in my fist as I hit the parking lot. The car roared awake, tires shrieking as I peeled out. Traffic blurred horns blared, lights streaked red and green. I didn't care. Leah was hurt. My wife, 6 months apart, sure, but still mine. Right? The hospital loomed ahead, a gray slab against the sky. I slammed the brakes, skidded into a spot, and ran. The ER doors hissed open, blasting me with cold air and the sting of antiseptic. A nurse, Sarah, her tag said, caught my eye. Clipboard clutched like a shield. "This way," she said, clipped and quick. I followed, boots slapping tile, past beeping machines and hushed voices. The hall stretched forever, white and sterile, closing in. Leah's room. I shoved the door. There she was, bandaged, bruised. A ghost on the bed. Her chest rose slow, ragged. My throat tightened. She looked small, broken. Despite the fight, the distance, this hit hard. Dr. Miller stepped up, gray hair, grayer eyes. "Mr. Boyd, she's got broken ribs, a fractured leg. Surgery went okay, but," he paused heavy, "she's pregnant." The word slammed me. Pregnant? My voice shook, barely mine. "That's impossible. We haven't not in months." His gaze flickered pity, maybe. She was driving, lost control, hit a guardrail. The passenger, "Malcolm, he's in surgery. It's bad." Malcolm, her coworker. Whispers I'd ignored roared back. Pregnant. Not mine. The room spun, edges sharpening with every breath. The door banged again. A woman stormed in clear, all sharp angles and colder fury. "I know it all," she snapped. Eyes locked on me. "Leah and Malcolm. 2 years. I've got proof pictures, recordings. I'm divorcing him. She'll pay too." Her words lit the fuse. Leah's eyes cracked open, a smirk curling her lips despite the pain. "Is it true?" I growled, fist tight. "What if it is?" she rasped. "You were never enough, Boyd." Rage flared, hot and blind. "We're done," I said, voice flat. "I'm taking Emma. Filing tomorrow." She laughed, bitter and thin. "Good. Malcolm's twice the man." I turned, stormed out. The hall swallowed me, white and endless. One thing burned clear. My life just shattered, and I didn't know what came next. The ER doors hissed shut behind me, trapping me in a world of bleach and buzzing machines. My boots thudded against the tile as I followed Sarah, the nurse, down a hallway that felt 2 long white walls, white floors, everything sterile and frigid. My chest was tight, like someone had cinched a belt around my ribs. Leah was hurt. Car wreck, they said. 6 months apart, and now this call out of nowhere? I didn't even know what I was supposed to feel. Sarah stopped at a door. "In here," she said, her voice sharp and quick. I pushed it open, and there she was, Leah, my wife, sprawled on a hospital bed like something discarded. Bandages crisscrossed her chest and leg, her face a mess of bruises and pale skin. My throat locked up. She looked fragile, almost lost. For a split second, I wanted to touch her hand, make sure she was real. But I stayed rooted, hands jammed in my pockets. Dr. Miller stepped up, his gray hair glinting under the fluorescent lights. "Mr. Boyd," he said, steady but direct. "She's stable now. Broken ribs. Fracture femur surgery went well. But there's something else you need to know." He paused, glancing at Leah, then back to me. "She's pregnant." The word slammed into me like a fist. "Pregnant?" It came out hoarse, barely audible. "That's impossible." My brain scrambled, counting months, 6 months apart. No chance. "We haven't—" "I know," Dr. Miller cut in, his voice softening just a notch. "But the tests don't lie." He shifted, then dropped another bomb. "She was driving when it happened. Lost control, hit a guardrail. The passenger Malcolm's in surgery now. Critical condition." Malcolm, her coworker, the guy she'd been staying late with for months. My hands balled into fists, nails biting into my palms. Pieces I'd ignored late nights. Vague excuses snapped into place. Pregnant. Not mine. His. The door banged open before I could say anything. A woman strode in tailored suit, eyes like daggers. Claire, Malcolm's wife. She didn't even look at Leah, just locked onto me. "You're Boyd, right?" she said, her voice cold and cutting. "I'm Claire, and I know everything." I blinked, still reeling. "Know what?" "About Leah and Malcolm." She yanked a folder from her bag and slapped it on the bedside table, paper spilling out. 2 years. I've got photos, texts, voicemails, everything. I'm divorcing him, and she's next on my lawyer's list. The floor tilted under me. 2 years? My gut twisted, acid burning up my throat. I turned to Leah, her eyes cracked open, watching us. "That true?" I snarled, stepping closer. 2 years with him? Leah's lips twitched into a faint, smug grin. "So what if it is?" she croaked, voice rough but defiant. "You were never there, Boyd. Always working, always gone." Her words hit like a slap, but I didn't back down. "We're done," I said, low and hard. "I'm filing for divorce, and I'm taking Emma." Her smirk flickered just for a heartbeat. "You'll never get her," she muttered. "Malcolm's worth 10 of you." I spun to Claire, who stood there, arms crossed, unyielding. "You've got enough?" I asked, nodding at the folder. "More than," she said, her eyes flicking to Leah with a mix of contempt and pity. "I'll be in touch." That was it. I turned and stormed out, the door banging shut behind me. The hallway stretched ahead, endless and empty, the hum of machines fading into a dull roar in my ears. My head was a storm rage, betrayal, and something raw, like grief, all tangled up. Leah's smirk burned behind my eyes, Claire's folder like a ticking bomb. 2 years. 2 damn years. But through the mess, one thing cut clear. Emma, my daughter. 4 years old, all curls and giggles, caught in the middle of this disaster. Leah could rot with Malcolm or what was left of him, but Emma was mine to protect. I'd fight for her, claw through whatever it took. The corridor loomed ahead, cold and unfeeling, mirroring the numbness creeping into my bones. My world was collapsing, but I'd build something new for her. I had to. I stormed out of the hospital, the automatic doors hissing shut behind me like a final judgment. The parking lot stretched out in a gray haze, cars muted under the weak late afternoon sun. The chill in the air bit at my face, but it was nothing compared to the cold sinking into my bones. My hands trembled as I fished my keys from my pocket, Leah's smug grin still searing my mind. 2 years. 2 damn years she'd been lying, and now there was a baby Malcolm's baby twisting the knife deeper. I slid into the driver's seat, the leather icy against my back. The engine growled to life, louder than I remembered, matching the fury churning inside me. Leah wasn't going to give me answers. She was too tangled in her own web of deceit. Malcolm was in surgery, clinging to life after the accident. That left someone else. Tyler, the college kid she'd been sneaking around with, his name had surfaced in Claire's recordings, a casual mention that now felt like a lead weight in my gut. If Leah was juggling multiple lies, Tyler might know more than he realized. The drive to his place was 20 minutes, plenty of time for my anger to sharpen into something cold and precise. I didn't call ahead. I didn't trust myself to stay calm over the phone. The streets blurred past, the radio blaring some cheerful pop song that mocked me. I slammed it off, the silence heavier but better suited to my mood. My knuckles whitened around the steering wheel, the leather groaning under my grip. Every red light felt like a taunt, stoking the fire I was carrying to Tyler's door. His apartment complex loomed at the edge of the university district, a squat building with cracked pavement and faded paint. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows as I parked crookedly and marched to his unit. The blue door was chipped, the number 12 hanging slightly askew. I pounded on it, the sound sharp and insistent. The door flew open almost instantly, and there he was, Tyler, all messy hair and wide, startled eyes. He looked younger than I'd remembered, barely past 20, his lanky frame awkward in a wrinkled t-shirt. "Boyd?" His voice cracked, confusion scrunching his face. "What are you?" "Inside," I snapped, shoving past him. The apartment reeked of stale pizza and regret, clothes scattered across the floor, empty beer cans littering the coffee table. It was a mess, just like everything else in my life right now. Tyler shut the door, his hands twitching nervously. "Look, man, I don't know what this is about." "Leah," I cut him off, willing to face him. "How long?" His face drained of color, like I'd sucker punched him. "Leah? What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb." I stepped closer, my voice low and tight. "I know about you and her. How long has it been going on?" He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. "It's not what you think. We just..." "Just what?" I loomed over him, my shadow stretching across the cluttered room. "Just screwing around behind my back? While she's married? While she's pregnant with another man's kid?" His eyes bulged, shock rippling across his features. "Pregnant? Leah's pregnant?" The raw surprise in his voice made me falter. "You didn't know?" "No, man, I swear." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing the cramped space. "We hooked up a few times, but it was casual. She said you two were separated, that it was over." "Separated," I muttered, the word bitter on my tongue. "And you bought that?" He stopped, shoulders slumping. "Yeah, I didn't think it was serious." "Serious enough to be her side piece," I said, the pieces snapping together. Leah had played us all, me, Malcolm, Tyler, keeping her options wide open like some twisted game. "I'm sorry, Boyd," he mumbled, guilt flickering in his eyes. "I didn't mean to." "Save it." My tone was flat, edged with steel. "I don't need apologies. I need answers. When did it start? How often?" He hesitated, then sighed. "About 6 months ago. Once a week, maybe less. She'd come here, said she needed a break." "A break," I echoed, disgust curling my lip. "From me? From her life? And you just went along with it?" He flinched, looking away. "She made it sound like you were done." I didn't ask questions. "Of course you didn't." I let out a harsh laugh. "She's been cheating with Malcolm for 2 years, Tyler. Now she's carrying his kid. You're just the bonus round." He gaped at me, speechless for once. Finally, he managed, "I didn't know. If I had." "You'd what? Grown a conscience?" I shook my head. "Tell me everything you do know. Anything that might help me in court." He nodded quickly. "Yeah, okay. But it wasn't deep, we didn't talk much. It was just physical." "Great," I said, sarcasm dripping. "Anything else?" He paused, frowning. "Wait, she mentioned a trip once. Said she might go to Florida. Didn't say why." "Florida?" That didn't fit. Leah hated humidity. Always griped about it. "What was she planning?" "Thanks," I said, turning to go. "If she contacts you, tell her it's done. And call me if you remember anything." "Will do," he said, still shaken. I stepped outside, the sky now a bruised purple. The anger still simmered, but a calm resolve was taking root. Leah thought she could outmaneuver me, but I was done playing her fool. I had Emma to protect and a life to reclaim. As I drove off, the city lights streaking by, I knew this was just the beginning. The apartment was a shoebox, but it was ours. I dropped the last cardboard box on the floor, the thud bouncing off the bare walls. Emma's toys spilled outstuffed bears, plastic blocks, proof that life hadn't completely gone to hell. The place smelled like fresh paint and regret, a clean slate in a building past its prime. It was near my parents' house, an hour's drive, not close enough for daily rescues. Just me and Emma now, piecing it together. I checked the clock, 7:45 a.m. daycare time. Emma toddled over, curls bouncing, clutching her sippy cup like a lifeline. "Daddy, can I bring Mr. Floppy?" she asked, holding up a ragged stuffed rabbit, its ear half chewed. "Sure, kiddo." I knelt, zipping her jacket. Her tiny hand slipped into mine, warm and trusting. That grip it was my whole world. Leah could rot, but Emma was safe. That's what kept me going. The daycare was a riot of color finger paintings plastered on the walls, alphabet posters screaming optimism. Miss Jenny waved as I signed Emma in. "She's a ray of sunshine," she said, smiling. I nodded, throat tight. Emma deserved better than the wreckage Leah left behind. Back at the apartment, the silence hit hard. I sank onto the couch, springs groaning under me. My laptop sat on the coffee table, a window into the chaos I couldn't quit. Claire, my private investigator, had sent new recordings bugs she'd planted in Malcolm's house. I jammed in my earbuds, hit play. Leah's voice cut through, sharp and worn. "You're useless now. You know that? Can't even change a damn diaper." Malcolm mumbled back, words, slurring pain meds. "No doubt. You're the one who crashed the car, Leah. You did this." "Shut up," she snapped. "I'm the only one working. You're dead weight." I smirked, a bitter satisfaction twisting inside me. They were crumbling, just as I'd pictured. Malcolm's paralysis had gutted him, his job, his pride, gone. Leah was stuck as nurse and breadwinner, and she despised it. Perfect. Those recordings were my dirty little thrill, a tether to the mess I'd clawed out of. Claire handed me the tools. I'd hired Mike, another PI, to dig deeper. He'd struck gold Leah's fling with Tyler, her sloppy nights out while Malcolm festered. It was leverage for the custody fight. Emma was staying with me. End of story. Night crept in, the apartment dim and still. Emma's soft snores floated from the bedroom, a lifeline in the quiet. I sat at the kitchen table, a half-empty beer sweating in my hand. My phone screen glowed, cutting through the dark. A text from Claire. Asterisk. New recording. You'll want to hear this. Asterisk. I plugged in my earbuds, pulse ticking up, Leah's voice low and frantic. "Tyler, I need out. Malcolm's a wreck. The kid's not even his. Let's go Florida, anywhere." Tyler's laugh was shaky. "You serious? What about Boyd? He's got Emma. He won't follow. Just pack a bag." The line cut off. I leaned back, chair creaking. Florida, Leah's big escape. She thought she could vanish, ditch the fallout. Not if I had anything to say about it. I stood, pacing the cramped kitchen. Custody papers were filed, but the court date loomed like a thunderhead. Leah would play dirty. I had to be sharper. Emma's future was on the line, and I'd be damned if Leah dragged her into that swamp. The fridge hummed, steady in the stillness. I cracked another beer, the cold glass anchoring me. Tomorrow, I'd call Mike, get him on Leah's trail. If she ran, I'd know. If she stayed, I'd tighten the screws. Emma's giggle echoed in my head, pure and untouched. She was my rock, my reason to push forward. Leah could plot all she wanted, but I'd already won what mattered, Emma, safe and loved. The rest was just static. Still, staring out the window at the city lights, a flicker of unease gnawed at me. Leah was cornered, and cornered people did dumb things. I'd have to stay vigilant, keep my edge. The war wasn't over. For now, I let the quiet wrap around me. Tomorrow was another battle, another step toward a life free of Leah's shadow. I rebuild for Emma, and maybe for me too. The stench slammed into me before I even reached the pork rotting trash, sour milk, and something deeper, fouler like despair had fermented into a physical reek. Malcolm's house sagged under its own weight, the paint flaking off in brittle curls, the windows smeared with years of grime. I parked across the street, my hazard lights pulsing like a heartbeat in the fading dusk, and stared at the front door. My stomach churned, a nauseous stew of anticipation, dread, and something I couldn't name, something sharp and jagged. This was it, the moment I'd clawed my way toward for months. Revenge wasn't sweet, not like they say. It was bitter, jagged, a shard of glass you swallowed just to prove you could choke it down. I climbed out of the car, the gravel crunching under my boots like brittle bones. The air hung heavy, humid, sticking to my skin like a second layer of sweat. My hand hovered over the doorbell for a split second, then I pounded on the door instead, 3 hard thumps that reverberated through the wood. The sound felt final, a gavel strike. From inside, a baby's wail sliced through the stillness, high and desperate, followed by Malcolm's voice, low and cracked. "Coming, hold on." The door groaned open, and there he was, Malcolm, slumped in a wheelchair, his frame shrunken, his face hollowed out. His eyes were sunken pits, shadowed and bloodshot, and his hair hung in greasy clumps over his forehead. His shirt was a map of Stain's formula, sweat, maybe something worse, and the baby's cries swelled behind him. A relentless, piercing chorus. "Boyd?" His voice rasped, like he hadn't used it in days, maybe weeks. "What the hell are you doing here?" I didn't bother answering. I shoved past him, my shoulder brushing his chair, and stepped into the living room. The place was a war zone of neglect-dirty diapers heaped in the corner like a grotesque monument, takeout containers scattered across the floor, their greasy contents congealing in the heat. The air was thick with the stench that stung my eyes, a rancid cocktail of decay and unwashed misery. Malcolm wheeled after me, the chair squeaking painfully with every turn. "Hey, you can't just—" "Shut up," I snapped, spinning to face him. My voice cut through the baby's wails like a blade. "I've got something you need to hear." He blinked up at me, confusion and exhaustion wrestling across his gaunt features. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my jacket and pulled out the recorder Claire had slipped me days ago. The one loaded with Leah's voice spilling every filthy secret she thought she buried. My thumb grazed the play button, and a dark, twisted thrill coiled in my chest. This was gonna shatter him, and I wanted to see every fracture line form. "Listen," I said, my voice dropping low, steady, almost a growl. I pressed play. Leah's voice crackled out of the tiny speaker, sharp and careless, dripping with venom. "The kid's either Malcolm's or Tyler's, doesn't matter. They're both ATMs." The baby's cries spiked in the background, a jagged counterpoint to her words, but Malcolm's face froze, his eyes widening like he'd been slapped. "What is this?" he whispered, barely audible, but I raised a hand, silencing him. Another clip rolled, more recent, her voice colder now, worn thin. "Malcolm's paralyzed ass is useless. I'm out with Tyler to keep sane. He thinks he's raising his kid pathetic." Her laugh followed a bitter, brittle sound that ricocheted around the room. Malcolm's hands shook on the armrest of his chair, his knuckles bleaching white. "That's not— she wouldn't—" "She did," I cut in, my tone flat, unyielding. "And there's more." I yanked the PI's report from my Poketa thin stack of pages, damning as a death warrant hand tossed it onto his lap. The papers fluttered down like ash, settling unevenly. "Read it. Tyler's been her escape hatch for months. Florida, maybe. She's done with you." He stared at the report, his breath hitching, shallow and ragged. The baby's wails hit a fever pitch, a raw, hungry sound that clawed at the air. Malcolm's face crumpled, his mouth twitched, his eyes glistened, and for a fleeting moment, I almost pitied him. Almost. "She's been playing you, Malcolm," I said, stepping closer, my shadow falling over him. "Just like she played me. Difference is, You're the one stuck with her mess. His head jerked up, his eyes igniting with a sudden, wild fury. You think this is funny? You think you're better than me? No, I said, my voice ice cold. I think I'm smarter. I got out. He laughed then, a hollow, broken bark that grated against my nerves. You got out? You're still here, Boyd. Still obsessed with her, with this whole damn mess. You're not free. You're just as trapped as I am. His words landed like a punch, sharp and bruising, but I shoved them down, buried them deep. Maybe, I said, but I'm not the one rotting in this hellhole. The baby's cries turned frantic, a piercing shriek that seemed to claw at Malcolm's fraying edges. Damn it, he muttered, wheeling toward the crib in the corner. His hands fumbled with a bottle on the table beside it, trembling so badly the thing nearly slipped from his grip. He cursed under his breath, a string of weak, defeated syllables, and finally got the bottle into the kid's reach. The cries softened, replaced by the faint, wet sound of sucking. I stood there, watching, the dark thrill I'd felt earlier draining away, replaced by something heavier, murkier. This wasn't the triumph I'd pictured. No grand, cinematic victory with me walking off into the sunset. Malcolm was a wreck, a shell of the man who'd swaggered into my life and helped Leah torch it. Leah was spiraling somewhere out there, and their kid small, innocent, helpless was tangled in the wreckage. My stomach twisted, a flicker of guilt sparking to life. Had I pushed this too far? I crushed the thought as fast as it came. They'd made their choices. I'd made mine. Take care of your kid, I said, my voice quieter now, almost detached. Or don't. It's not my problem anymore. Malcolm didn't look up, just hunched over the crib, cradling the bottle, his shoulders sagging under an invisible weight. I turned and walked out, the door clicking shut behind me with a soft, final thud. The air outside hit me like a slap cooler, cleaner, cutting through the fog of that house. But the weight of what I'd done stuck to me, heavy and acrid, like smoke I couldn't shake. I crossed the street, slid into my car, and sat there staring back at the house. Through the grimy window, I caught Malcolm's shadow, bent over the crib, the baby's cries fading to a whimper. He was broken, and I'd driven the last spike through him. Part of me savored it justice, payback for the affair, for Leah's betrayal, for every lie they'd fed me. But another part, quieter, gnawed at me, whispering that maybe I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. My phone buzzed in my pocket, jarring me out of the haze. A text from Claire, asterisk, new recording, Leah's planning something big, call me, asterisk. I exhaled, slow and deliberate, the adrenaline seeping out of me. Leah wasn't done yet, and neither was I. But as I turned the key, the engine roaring to life, something shifted inside me. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about cutting her out of my life, root and stem. I pulled away from the curb, the house shrinking in my rearview mirror, a fading stain on the dusk. Malcolm was a casualty, collateral damage. Leah was the real target, and I wasn't stopping until she was gone for good. The television blared from the living room, cutting through Emma's giggles as I poured cereal into her bowl. I was mid-pour when the news anchor's voice stopped me cold. Woman arrested after husband and infant found dead in home. My hand froze, milk spilling over the edge, dripping onto the counter. Leah. Her name flashed across the screen, followed by her mugshot, those hollow eyes staring back, the defiant smirk I'd once known wiped clean. The anchor's tone was flat, detached. Authorities say Leah Boyd left her husband Malcolm and their 3-month-old infant alone for weeks while she vacationed in Florida with another man. Neighbors reported no activity for days. Both victims were found deceased, cause of death, severe neglect, and starvation. My stomach twisted, a nauseating mix of satisfaction and dread. Malcolm broken, left to rotan that tiny baby, innocent, caught in the crossfire of Leah's selfishness. I set the milk carton down, its cold sweat sticking to my palm, and braced myself against the counter. My breath came short and sharp. From the next room, Emma's laughter rang out, bright and untouched by the ugliness unfolding on the screen. She was safe. That was everything. The anchor pressed on. Leah Boyd attempted to cover her tracks, but flight records and social media posts unraveled her lies. She faces 2 counts of manslaughter and child endangerment. The footage shifted to Leah in handcuffs, her face blank with shock, as if she couldn't believe the world had finally called her bluff. I let out a slow breath, feeling the tension unwind. It was done. Leah's chaos had crashed down around her, and I'd kept Emma clear of it. I'd fought tooth and nail through the betrayal, the fury, the endless nights to protect my girl. The recordings, the arguments, the dreaded, had all built to this moment. Leah laid bare, her deceit exposed for everyone to see. I stepped into the living room. Emma sat on the floor, her curls bouncing as she stacked blocks, her tongue peeking out in concentration. I dropped onto the couch, watching her, a quiet peace settling in my chest. Leah was gone, her shadow lifted. Emma was mine, and I'd give her a life free of that mess. The news faded to a weather report, sunny days ahead, a clean slate. I leaned back, the weight of the past months slipping away. Relief flooded me, though a faint unease lingered. Leah's arrest was justice, but it wasn't neat. Malcolm and that baby, they'd paid for her recklessness, and no part of me could cheer for that. Then Emma looked up, her grin wide and unguarded. "Daddy, look," she chirped, pointing at her shaky tower. I smiled, real, warm, the first in weeks. "It's perfect, kiddo." And for once it almost felt true.